Welcome back, friends, to What's Behind the Silence, the truth no one wants to talk about. Today, not only do I have my fabulous co-host with us, Stacy Cutright, I have Andres Molina, who is a special guest today, who is willing to share his story. And welcome, Andres and Stacy.
Hello. Nice to meet you all. Thank you
Hello.
very
Hello, and welcome on this great rainy Friday in here in Texas. So, um, you know, Andres is a coach, just like Stacy and I met Andres through Symbiosis Coaching, and getting to know him a little bit, I noticed he had a story to tell, one that he uses to fuel his passion and purpose in life. And it wasn't always an easy road for Andres. And Andres has a specialty of helping people find their own passions and values. And I think his journey has really helped him that. And he is a love coach. And he was trained by Alice, Alex Cormont, the French relationship expert. So, but he's dedicated his life to embracing his challenges so he can help others. And so we're going to have Andre share his story today. And hopefully it will resonate with some of you to help you see that, we all go through those struggles in life. It's really how you show up to those struggles and the influences you have around you. So Andre's welcome. And, I'm excited for you to share your story with our audience. And I'm just going to turn over the floor to you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Halloween weekend. Let's all be safe. Let's all have fun. So yeah, I mean, it's been a quite interesting journey the last 27 months of my life, where it's changed my outlook, changed my health, changed my purpose in life. And when I think of mental health, it had a big part of where I am today. Um, One of the questions that I always get asked is like, where did it start, in the sense of maybe preparing this mental health, this mental strength to overcome my injury years ago. And so just so in a little recap of everything, I was paralyzed from the neck down, August 26, 2020. I suffered a cervical spinal cord contusion on my C2 right on the skull, and I was a quadriplegic. And I was terrified. I was defeated. I was in a dark place. I didn't know why or happened to me. It was a freak of an accident, literally the doctor's words. I just finished a 25 mile bike ride. I usually use exercise as my stress releaser, and it was obviously right in the heart of the pandemic. I recently just moved to near Boca Raton, Florida, to take care of my mom, to help her with retirement, where I left my work and my lifestyle of Los Angeles, which I'll go into that detail a little bit later. But I dropped everything to take care of her, and here I am now. She's had to take care of me. So after I got back from this 25 mile bike ride, I went through my day. I thought I was hydrated. I thought I had my protein, and I was doing some work. And then eventually I was in the backyard patio hanging out, and I felt a little warm sensation. So I decided to go inside and get some water. And as I reached for the front door or the patio door, I get this warm rush and I faint. And I hit my right temple on one of her flower pots on the backyard patio. And I hit my right spot of my temple, and with my body impact hitting the rest of the ground, my neck was slanted and crooked, and I was out for until my brother and my sister-in-law woke me up, because they were in town visiting. And I had no idea what I was going through. I had no idea what I was going through. I was the craziest thing about that. Before I give you more into detail, I was in so much peace. I remember those 2 minutes, which seemed like a decade. I was floating. I was in awe. I was going somewhere. I was so relaxed. I remember specifically the joy of just being almost unconscious in a weird way. And then when my brother woke me up, he looked at my face and I had no idea I was on the ground. I had no idea I fainted. I had no idea what was going on. So he was like, let's get you up. I had a little cut and some coming down. And then when he was trying to get me up, then not to get too, deep, but that's when hell kicked in. And I couldn't feel anything below my neck, anything below my chin. So I couldn't move anything. He tried to lift up everything, but it fell back down. And then that's when it really kicked in where I was. So they rushed me to the hospital, and they diagnosed me with a C2 cervical spinal cord contusion, very similar to Christopher Reeve's Superman. There's a very symbolic thing about Superman and what I kept on hearing about Christopher Reeves on that same injury that he suffered falling off a horse. And obviously, however that kind of worked out with that injury, which is a very rare, small percentage of the cervical spinal cord injuries. It's a 0.003% chance of the cervical. The C1, C2 to the skull, where that can cause either death or obviously, quadriplegic breathing apparatus, paralyzation, or the very rarest of terms, the rarest of situations, my situation was a contusion. So it wasn't a full break and I didn't need surgery, but I was paralyzed with an unknown time frame. So I was in the pandemic, away from Los Angeles, Manhattan Beach, 16 years where I was a working actor, working at Universal Studios, Warner Brothers, Walt Disney, working with all my favorite idols and role models and dreams coming true, being a working actor for the Screen Actors Guild. Now I'm in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the neck down during a global pandemic. It's almost like to a point where it's like a movie in a sense, I have to say, because I want to bring some light to it, but it's almost like a star of your own movie. Your Oscar performance is now. And that's where I kind of want to dive into like the whole mental health thing. Before I get more into the surge or the recovery and the hospital and where I'm at now, it all really did start on my first obstacle mentally, emotionally, when I lost my father to cancer at 17. He was my best friend. I was born on his birthday. I was the third child by a big gap of years, so I wasn't necessarily planned, but they called me the love child in a way. It didn't click from the very beginning. And during my high school years, he was going through treatment and chemo, so he was very vulnerable, but also very confident about where he was going, and he would always sit and have very long lectures. We didn't do the typical father son throw the baseball or run around kind of thing because he was sick. So he always kept on almost like implanting all his words of wisdom or experiences in life. We would just sit down after school for 3 hours and just talk. And after he passed, right after I graduated high school, I was mad and I hated the world and I questioned my, and I knew there was two options I was going to go into because I was fearless, fearless, and like no other. Nothing scared me. And I was either going to join the Marines. I wanted to go do some damage. I'm not going to lie. I was going to protect the country. I wanted to go do something, and I'm a pretty athletic, big guy. I'm 6'2", 210. I've always been taking a lot of pride in good health and fitness. Um, or I wanted to kind of roll the dice with this acting thing, which I never did high school drama. I was more in sports, basketball, weightlifting, and soccer. Never did drama. But me and him, my father used to always bond on like movies. We used to always love like the Hitchcock, the James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, Waterfront, all the classics. Of the development of art and film. But I didn't know if I was a good actor or not. So I rolled the dice and I did it correctly in a way because born and raised in DC, you're not going to just do everything and go on a hope and dream. You better have a plan. It's a very work ethic, educational, conservative lifestyle. My family worked in politics. I grew up in that. So I was like, I better have a plan to present to my family before I just go out and drop everything. And I did. And Little did I know the resiliency that you need to succeed or at least sustain work in the Hollywood film and TV played a big part in my recovery because I didn't mind being rejected. I thrive on no's. I don't care about criticism. I welcome it. And it was because that fearless fire I had from losing my dad that I'm going to bet and invest in me more than what I really need to find and accept your approval or something. Because I'll put the work in. Don't doubt that. It was almost like a sales mentality. I'll go door by door, and eventually we'll get booked. And that really, that fire, that mental drive, that mental fire, played a big part in my success as an actor. And what was interesting, while you're an actor and an artist, one of the main things we learn in class in our style of acting is, which again, this has a big part of my recovery, is accepting and welcoming uncomfortableness, accepting and welcoming, embracing darkness. How do you expand who you are spiritually, emotionally, mentally as an artist, even though you're not there individually? How do you portray a truthful, realistic, natural performance on someone you have no relation to? By being open, by being vulnerable. And I was as vulnerable as it gets, but I was very structured in a way where I was like, I'm in control of this, though. I'm allowing this because I want to be the best actor I could be. And I got a lot of good praise about being natural at it because I really, for it, even though I did classes at LA, but I didn't really go to school for it. It was like that fearless mental fire that I had to work there and succeed. So as an actor, you have to welcome the uncomfortableness. You have to welcome uncertainty. You have to welcome darkness. You have to embrace doubts and fears and things that really expand your mental strength to a point of, I know me more than you think you ever know me. And I welcome all criticism because trust me, it's not going to offend me. I welcome it. Keep it up. Come on, show me. And I love that tough love. I love that direct approach, which Hollywood could be very brutal, very superficial, very shallow, very
I
brutal.
bet.
But again, I took it. I was like, all right, cool. I don't take it personal. I get it. I want the job too, and you want the right person for the job. I'll show you it's me. And so I can go all day about stories about my acting. That'd be another day, another show. But I did that for 16 years, and I was on my own. I didn't know anyone out there but a talent manager, no family, no friends. And 20 years old in Los Angeles, it's like either you get chewed up or you make an impact. And I was doing my thing. You know, my most memorable job was working in Star Trek with J.J. Abrams, working in Batman with Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan, working in La La Land with Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. It was a dream, man. It was my own La La Land moment. So when I decided to leave that to come to Florida, I didn't think I was trying to close that door or I was ever done, but I knew my priorities were different. I wanted to be around my family. I wanted to be around my mom. She was getting closer to 80. She just retired. And I was like, this is more important. My priorities have changed. I'm not done with LA, but I wanted to be more around. And so I literally packed my car up in 2 weeks and drove cross country. Uh, I've never done that. I've always wanted to do that. And then the pandemic hit. I was like, my goodness, thank God I decided to do this now, because now I can help out and really secure and make sure everything's safe. And obviously that first year, that first 9 months was, so uncertain, and everyone was just everywhere, as they should be. It's terrifying. And then my injury happened. So I was like, all right, maybe I made the wrong decision. What's going on here? I'm always, I'm not the most religious person. I was born Catholic, but I'm more spiritual. My family's from Peru. My dad is very spiritual. He has a lot of Inca blood, native blood in him. Like my grandfather looks like a chief out there, Chief Perez Molina. And so we always had a lot of good spiritual talks at dinner or while he was hanging out after school. So I was just curious, where and why did this happen to me? Uh, and that's where the mental health, I realized that fearlessness and that fire and that anger that I used that helped me succeed in acting did not translate in the recovery. And this was something I had to fight with. And I'll never forget, I knew I was terrified, but I was so mad and in denial and angry and aggressive, as anyone should be, to not allow this to be the result, not allow this to be um, who I am. There's no way I'm going to be, you know, quadriplegic. So the hospital offered a psychologist. Would you like a psychologist to understand how to go through uh, the situation? I was like, yes, of course. I'm not going to act like I know what I'm doing, of course. And so she understood my whole story, and we had a great bond and a great connection. And she told me, she was like, I could tell you're very ambitious and very athletically committed to whatever it is you need to do for your in bed therapy because you're not moving yet, but you're committed. You want more. You're disciplined. It's great. Uh, but you can't heal angry. You can't heal mad. This aggression can only take you so far. And I'm not saying to lose that fire or that drive, but literally, physically, scientifically, biologically, your body will not heal if you're holding in this pressure, this stress, this fire, this anger. Your body is paralyzed. It needs to calm down to allow potential recovery. And they kind of like my neurologist explained it to me in a more clear metaphor. My C2 contusion was like almost like a foot was on the hose of my neck, and the water from my brain to the rest of my body was blocked. And since it was a contusion, we have to wait through time, treatment, and medication so that foot eventually will elevate above that hose, which is your spinal cord. And anytime any water or electrical signals comes out, you need to be ready and push it through and move your body. Um, but before that, before I was, didn't move anything for 9 days, you have to visualize. You have to talk to your body. You have to talk to your fingers. You have to talk to your toes. You have to talk to your limbs. You have to talk to everything and say, come on. And you have to connect with it in a weird way that you just don't even understand, or how maybe we take for granted, feeling and knowing your body. You have to encourage it. You have to coach it. So hopefully one day it'll wake up. Like almost, it's like seeing yourself in a coma in one of those movies. You're like, your soul's floating above you. Wake up, man, wake up. I'm kind of doing that to my body. And she was like, you can't heal angry. That was the main thing I took from it. You have to surrender. You have to sacrifice. You have to surrender, and you need to accept it. And I don't know if it was the medication or maybe the cafeteria food, but I was like, this is my acting role. This is my Oscar performance. This is it. This is the me on stage. This is what I got to do. All right, I've done this for 16 years. I played a lot of roles I have no relation to, that I was uncomfortable with, but I did it. Challenge accepted. And then my right toes started moving, and then my right foot, and then my right leg, my kneecap below, and then eventually my right arm, elbow to my shoulder, and then a little bit with my left foot, very, very little. And then they were realizing, you know what, maybe qualified for rehab at the facility, at the gym. And I was like, yes, get me out of this bed. I'm ready. Put me in the gym, put me on the treadmill, put me in the machine. I'm a fitness freak. I love it. And then again, this was a turning point to elevate the recovery even more in a mental health way. Was that I still remember it so clearly. I was taking a nap right after breakfast, 7 a.m., getting ready for my 8:30 first session at the rehab center. And I wake up and there's Douglas, my physical therapist, my good friend till this day. And I heard rumors about him. He's very militant, old military, older, Caucasian male, no BS, don't waste my time. You have to be qualified for his sessions. And I was like, bring it on. Here comes like the Marine coming in. And I wake up and he's leaned against my my room window with my chart in his hands. He was like, Andres, pleasure to meet you. Good morning. I've heard your story. It's quite unique. And, it's, pleasure to meet you. And I was like, Douglas, likewise, let's get to work. I'm ready. And then he goes, well, before we get started, I need you to realize something, how rare this occasion is for you. You need to understand how blessed you are to be in this position, how blessed you are to have the opportunity to heal. And I gave him the biggest FU death stare I was like, blessed. Like, how am I blessed? I was like, I'll take this challenge with commitment and discipline. Blessed. And then he leaned right into my face and he was like, I guess they haven't showed you your chart. I'm going to show you your chart. And he pulls it up and he puts it in front of my face. And he's like, you see your C2, your C1, C2 above your skull, not your neck, not your shoulders, not your vertebrae, your skull. Yeah, there is no C1, C2 contusions. Usually it's a break. It's mostly always a break. So either you're going to die from it or you're Christopher Reeves. I've never seen a contusion. You are less than a centimeter away from being Christopher Reeves. And that he really just, that hit hard. And then I just started crying. I just started bawling. And I still to this day, I compare that because I follow a bunch of other quadriplegic spinal patients. I was like, let's get to work. So I was like, don't take it easy on me though. Let's go. And so the very first time we go to the facility center, he brings me up with three other, physical therapists, help me stand me up and pull me to the parallel bars. And my legs are shaking like noodles. My arms are shaking like noodles. And I can't do one step. I can't even do one like heel toe step. And so they bring me back down and I'm in denial. I'm like, no, keep me up here. I could do it. You're not ready yet. Let's get you back in bed for more in-bed therapy. We'll stretch you out. We'll lift you up with the cords and the bands. And I hated it. So after we did, he wheeled me back into my room and he said, no, it's small wins, man. Small wins. You're here, you got into the gym and you have the right attitude for it. Don't worry about the result. It'll come. I was like, listen, Douglas, I'm not going to sit in my room for the next 12 hours and watch whatever's on TV or, look into the sky or the clouds because my hands can't pick up a book. My hands can't pick up my phone. My hands can't pick up the controller. And this little apparatus device in my mouth to change the TV station is depressing. What can I do? And he was like, here are some exercises you could do in your bed for your mind, connect to your body, and just repetitively do it over and over. And I was like, done. And I went into this tunnel, this dark place of like, all right, I'm gonna show you. And I did it all day, all night. And the next day, he wakes me up, brings me to the parallel bars, and I walk 20 steps. I walk the whole way there, I walk the whole way back. Everyone's astonished. I get a round of applause at the facility center. They bring me back to my room, and after lunch, the PT director, Genevieve, comes to my room, and she was like, who are you? Well, that's not normal. You couldn't do one, and now you did 20. That's what's your story? And I told her, and she was like, wow, that's some mental health you got going on there to not only accept it, but to embrace it and to challenge it in a way where you keep it productive, constructive compared to aggressive and destructive. I was like, oh, well, I mean, somewhere along the line, I guess I've been preparing for this role. So eventually she was like, do you mind if the marketing can kind of come behind this because of who you are acting and this amazing story, and maybe we can hopefully motivate others? And I was like, yes, anything you need. Would you
Can
be
I
open to?
interrupt you real quick?
Yeah, of
I've got to,
course.
I don't mean to derail your story, but I think what you said there is so important. It's like you prepared yourself your whole life for this moment. You didn't know you were preparing yourself for this moment. Like, we don't know what struggles we have in front of us in our future life, but what was it that helped you tap into that past to help you in your future? Like, your mind could have gone so differently. Your mind could have shut down, you could have given up, lost all hope. So, as you reflect back, because you use this as a powerful learning for others now, what was it that you were tapping into that didn't make you give up? Do you know?
For the longest time, I would say Los Angeles and that journey was the voice of my dad. I would have so many vivid dreams. I would have so much deja vu. I would have so many surreal moments of like, I've been here before. I've been on this set before. I've worked on this stage before. So things to a point where when you are like, unfortunately, when you go through a very traumatic experience, family loss or emotional or physical, life slows down, time slows down. And those moments, if you can try to capitalize and almost just like nourish every little one of those moments that are you just feel a little more present than ever, more connected than ever, that's going to play a big part when things get shaky, when things get, I always tell everyone, life is a beautiful thing, but the most important thing isn't time, it's actually energy. Energy is the most important thing because when you tap into that energy of who you are, time slows down. Unfortunately, energy slows down when we are in a very testing situation. When you reflect, when you're sad, when you're alone, that's when you feel like everything's so long. And so in LA, I always tapped into him, his voice, his wisdom, his knowledge, his uh, advices. And then I would say Florida in my injury, it was more of making sure my mom's okay, making sure she doesn't have to take care of me. I came here to take care of her. Um, that was my fuel at that point. She's done enough. She's been a widower since I was 17 of three kids, worked until she was 72. That was my rock at the time. I was like, all right, I'll walk. I'll get out of this chair. I'll do something with this. It
That's
wasn't a matter
phenomenal.
of if, it was when. Thank you. Great question. Um, do I just go on with do
Yeah.
I just go on with uh so Genevieve asked me if I would be open to being a patient advocate. And I was like, I never really done that before. What would I do? She's like, we would ask you if you talk to other patients, share what you know. I was like, of course. So they would wheel me in to different rooms and different patients, and I would just start to ironically coach them, not knowing. I just was looking for somebody to talk to, and just kind of like reflect on we're both in this position. What the hell happened? What's going on? And a pandemic? Jesus, what the hell? We would laugh at it, bring some level of humor to this darkness and insanity of what's going on, but we would just bond on that. But again, I would tell them ultimately, like, you have to not fight the situation. You need to accept it and understand that mountain that's in front of you is possible. But not accepting it is in that where you're not going to ever really see what you're made of. So I was talking to a few of them, and it really helped me. Even if anything, it motivated me more than anything, hearing their story or hearing myself tell them. And I was like, there's something here that's very rewarding and fulfilling, but also very motivational for me. Now I want to go work out more. Now I want to go do more rehab. Now I want to go prove it more. I can't just talk the talk. I got to walk the walk now, literally. So while I was recovering, they said realistically it would probably be a good 6 to 9 months before I could fully walk independently. That they would have to modify my house to first floor, hospital bed, wheelchair ramp, everything. Uh, I'd have to shower in the back because there was no shower on the first floor. I remember telling Douglas, I was like, that's not happening. I get that, and we'll prepare for that. My brother, who is an amazing big part of this, he moved in um, and set it all up. And I was like, I understand being prepared for, but we're not going to need that. And Douglas was like, listen, 1 to 20 steps, love it with help. Walking on your own and steps, I just watch. So we focused on 17 stairs, 17 steps my house had to my room. And on my last week of rehab, I did my first step, then 5 steps, then 17. And then as I got discharged, I'm okay. They wheel me out, and the news, local news was there, um, interviewing this crazy situation. And I showed them, I was like, let me show you I can walk. So I got off the wheelchair and I walked. And then when I got to my house, they wheeled me in and I was like, get rid of that ramp, return it. And I got off my wheelchair and I walked with the walker, of course. And I walked in my house, said hello to everyone, and then I walked upstairs. And I never used the wheelchair again. Days. So then when the hospital reached out to me after I did outpatient rehab and training, they kept on asking me, would you still be interested in doing more marketing? Because now you're taking it to a different level where uh, you're not using the wheelchair. I was like, no, walker, I need it. Don't get me wrong, I need the walker. I would tip over quick, but I don't need that wheelchair. I don't need the ramp. Return that hospital bed. I'm showering in my shower and I'm sleeping in my bed. And I didn't realize during this, like you mentioned before, I guess you don't realize that this is a skill or a strength or something you're not even aware of, but it's something when you tap into it from wherever you are or whatever through, that's a muscle that's yours. And no one can take that away from it. You don't realize when that gets tested, when it's rare, that's when it really shows up. So, like my brother said it very clearly in the ICU floor in the very first week I was there. This injury will not define you. Your recovery will. I know you. I'm your older brother. I know how stubborn you could be about when your head is focused on something. This injury will not define you. Your recovery will. What happens to you does not define you. What you do afterward defines you. Because we all got something to deal with. And again, it's not about perfection. It's progress, not perfection. Small wins leads to big results. Um, One of my favorite quotes was actually from The Rock, one of my favorite role models. My sister's a big yoga instructor, and she's big onto like quotes, and she put it on my hospital wall from The Rock. You got 3 choices in life: give up, give in, or give it your all. And I remember immediately I always jumped to option 3: give it your all. That's what I'm going to do. Give it my all. Kind of an extremist, sure, but you don't realize actually it's a process of you have to give up first. You have to give up and surrender. And then you actually have to give in and sacrifice, and you have to surrender, and then you need to give in and sacrifice yourself to the process, whatever it is. And then you can give it your all. I thought there were the options, but they're actually an order of steps.
I love that.
And that plays, I'll tell you another quick story of what was another turning point, which again, I wish I can make this stuff all up. I am in the process of putting a book together, to be real. So while I'm back at the house, one of my newest friends in Florida, Alex Cormont, who's the #1 love coach in Europe. He's considered the European Hitch love coach of Europe. Alex Cormont, the French relationship expert, millions of subscribers on YouTube, very well known internationally. And we became friends through mutual friends. And he was actually curious about me going into coaching before the injury because he lost his father too. And that's something we bond. Lost my father, went to acting. He lost his father to become a coach. And we really clicked on that. He was like, I really think you could do something. And I was like, well, I'm not sure yet. I'm new to Florida. There's a lot going on right now. And then the injury happens. He was like, I really think you could do this coaching. I think that no one could understand and relate what you've gone through, but your attitude is something very valuable and people need to hear it. And at the time, I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to work anytime soon. We're still going through the pandemic. I can't walk by my walker. Okay, what can I do? He was like, you can work from your bed. You can work from home. Let's get you trained, read my book here and there, understand the philosophy. Let's go. And you're going to be coaching women. I was like, huh, why women? And he goes, well, I want to make sure the idea is the balance about masculine and feminine energy, balancing the logical and emotional thinking, best of both worlds. Because I have women who coach men. I was like, oh, I love that. And he goes, it's not so much relationship coaching to like, prioritize romance and have games of manipulation for falling in love. No, it's more about finding yourself, which will lead to a healthy relationship. So it's more actually into life in a way, but we call it relationship coaching because we get a little intimidated by life coaching, counseling, or therapy. But relationships kind of cute. It's fun. It's attractive. It's marketable. And I was like, that's well said. Very true. But again, I'm not convincing people to play games. I'm not about manipulation. I want to set themselves up, wake them up, see what the real value is. And that will reflect and translate to what kind of relationship you're in. And if he doesn't appreciate that, he's the wrong guy. If he's encouraged by that, you got something there. So it's all about, reflection on yourself. And I was like, that I could do. That I love. And so I started coaching, what was it? 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital. So mid-October. I was in the hospital until September 30th. Mid-October, I started training in my bed. I remember I had my sister-in-law, my brother, or my mom flip pages of his book, flip the courses on my laptop because I couldn't move my hands correctly. I didn't have the fine motor skills yet. And then they would set me up with the headphones and I would talk. And eventually I started coaching at a very early stage, which again was very therapeutic to kind of just talk about something else. And what else? And then a couple of big moments happened to reassure that mental health to, one of the questions was like, how do you stay in that place? How do you keep your faith? How do you not get down? Or how do you, and it's just that constant reminder of gratitude, even when things are going good. And that constant reminder of humility and gratitude, which is very tough. It's hard. It's hard. It's easy to complain. It's easy to be negative. And I had a lot of reasons and rights to complain and be negative. But I remember one specific time, it was the week of my Christmas, that December. And I'm downstairs in the kitchen and my mom's putting the Christmas tree together. So this is 2.5 months after I got discharged. And I'm putting together my gifts that I ordered on Amazon, and I'm using like my palms to put the wrapping paper together, but my fingers, I can't do the specific taping or the ribbons or the writing down. I couldn't write yet. And so I'm just freaking losing it, I'm trying to keep this Christmas spirit. And she was like, let me help you. And I'm like, no, I could do this. And eventually I couldn't do it. So I go back upstairs and I remember it was such a freaking crazy moment. I don't know if God or whoever's up there, whoever just gave me that punch in the gut. I started crying upstairs in my room, yelling at a picture of my dad and saying, F this, F you, F that. What I'm here to take care of her and I'm going to wrap my own gifts, my hand, how embarrassing. So I lost my mental health. I lost my drive. I lost my focus. I lost my, because of ego, because of pride. I lost that gratitude of just being able to do that. And I was yelling clearly, and I was like, show me worse. Everyone says it could have been worse, could have been worse, could have been worse. Show me effing worse. And I go to bed. No joke, man. No joke on this. You can Google this person's name. 9 a.m., I got a message on my Instagram from one of my ICU nurses. And she goes, Andres, we need you here at the hospital. I was like, is everything okay? Yeah, baby Andres is here. He came in last night and we told him your story and he wants to meet you before Christmas, if that's okay. And I was like, baby Andres. And he was like, if you can come here, I'll explain more. But he had a similar injury and he's a little terrified and he got here last night. I was like, huh, all right, that's kind of a quick answered prayer right there, or at least a, screaming of the soul. So my sister picks me up and I ask her, can you pick me up, but also print out one quotes of 3 choices in life? I want to put it on his wall. So I go to the ICU and I'm using my walker and I'm getting there. And so she approaches me and she was like, I'm so glad you're here. I knew you would make it. Uh, he's waiting for you. And I was like, why is he baby undressed? She was like, you'll see. And so I go in there and I remember clearly the dad's going up and down the hallways, in denial, freaking out. The mom is crying her eyes out with the rosary beads. And there he is, kind of just like knocked out with the neck brace and just out there. And I look in there and there is a 19-year-old Peruvian young man who had a scholarship to University of Florida for tennis. And he's out. I almost look like a younger version of me, baby undressed. I was like, holy shit. That's why they call him baby. They're Peruvian. I mean, there's not that many Peruvians, you know what I mean? Or at least in America. I'm kind of like just caught up by that whole moment. And eventually he wakes up and he just starts to smile. And I tell him my whole story. And, Debbie, my ICU nurse, she was there. She's like, just tell him your story. Give him everything. And I just went into this huge, enthusiastic coaching, give it my all, 30, 40 minutes of everything, a fight. And I just basically, I was so drained afterwards. The mom hugs me. I try to hug him. And I put the quote on his wall. I was like, you let me know if you need anything. You got a new brother in me. He was like, thank you. And I say goodbye to his dad. And then I leave. And then I'm just like, I'm drained. I am just drained. And I was like, was that too much? And she was like, no, he needed that. He needed that little kick in the ass, but from someone who's been there, who's been in that bed, literally. I was like, okay, what's his diagnosis? Oh, he's not walking. I was like, what do you mean he's not walking? Oh, he broke it. There's no contusion. He broke. He's not walking. And then I remember clearly my heart just dropped to like my waist, to my stomach. And what do you mean he's not? No, he broke it. He's not walking. Not happening. Not you. And I remember clearly I like started like out to like the hospital ceiling lights and just kind of like, show me worse. I asked for. And now I have a face, a name. He's Peruvian, and I just met his family. My God. And I'm like kind of just zoned out as she's talking to me. And then my other ICU nurse, Mary Lou, who was there the night I got in, it saw me at my worst, comes up behind me and she was like, I knew you'd be here for Jose. And I'm still like staring at the ceiling. And then she taps me in the face, like a gentle slap, like a love slap. And she was like, hey, don't you do that. And I was like, do what? Give yourself survivor's guilt because you survived and he's not. He's not walking. And I was like, is that what it's called? She's like, that's exactly what it is. You have survivor's guilt because you're walking and he's not going to. It's not going to happen. I was like, okay, that's exactly what it feels like. And she was like, you were meant to be in this position to help others. And I knew you'd be here. So I'm not surprised you're here. And then I just like, I don't know, on the way back to the car, I was kind of just losing it. And I was like, I literally was complaining about not wrapping Christmas gifts that I purchased myself, that I came downstairs to box. But wrapping, I couldn't do it. Now here I am complaining about wrapping. And that checkup really hits you in that level of, all right, keep that gratitude strong, strong. And it's interesting, sometimes you have to go through some turmoil or darkness to really appreciate and count your blessings, because the key thing, the most valuable thing I've learned is to remind yourself of those and keep yourself in that place, because that's the most valuable thing you can have in life. Life's going to be shit. There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be stress and, issues and politics and bad weather. There's always going to be something, but you need to keep yourself in that mental place of gratitude, humility. And then I enjoyed that Christmas more than you can even imagine. Kept in touch with him, of course, still to this day. He has got a tube in his neck, paralyzed from the neck down. He uses a little joystick, Jose
Wow.
Castro. Yeah, yeah. But to kind of bring things into like good spirits, which is crazy, again, more of my story, so interesting, was that The Christopher Reeves comparison kept on sticking to me. So I'd always go search C2 cervical spine injury patients, and I would follow them and just kind of reach out. And eventually, 7 months later, after my injury, I told my Miami talent agent, because I was still working a little bit in Miami before the injury, before the pandemic, I think I'm ready to work as an actor again. You can get on set, you could do everything. I was like, I could do walk and talk, I could sit and talk, but if there's anything more than that, I'm sorry. And 7.5 months later, the week of my birthday, I get a call. Hey Andres, can you in? Now that's I could be the most grateful, appreciative stand-in you will ever meet. Stand in line, stand in and mark, and set that up for the actual real principal, the real star. Yeah, I could do that. Oh my God, I could do that. I could do so good at that. Stand up, stand in, not move, not talk. Perfect. Great, we'll book you. And I'm part of the union, the Screen Actors Guild, so that's why I'm kind of get qualified for these specific jobs, which I'm about to explain. Um, the union job. So I show up to Pembroke Pines 9 months after my paralyzation, birthday week, and I'm like standing in for it. Because obviously, when you stand in for someone, you have to feel the same. You have to be the same kind of size and frame and height. I was like, who? I'm curious who it is. Swear I could not be making this stuff up. It's Henry Cavill, the current. Here he is from London into Pembroke Pines, Florida, doing a campaign for Muscle Tech. And he comes in with this glow, this, celebrity glow. I'm like, holy shit, Henry Cavill. And he just got back and re-announced that he's a Superman again with the whole Rock movie, Black Adam. He's back. Henry Cavill's back. Superman, Man of Steel 2 is happening. And here he is. Now I'm standing in for this current Superman where I was compared as Christopher Reeves for the last 9 months. And now I'm working with him. And that just like, it's interesting when you stay in this path of gratitude, hard work, and positive thinking and mental health, you get some crazy rewards or some level of acknowledgement that you don't even know. It's weird. It's just weird. So literally the 3 days we're working together for like 12 hours, he sees me limping. Obviously, I'm not walking smoothly at all, but I'm walking. You all right? He asks. I'm good. It's got a twisted ankle. Cool, cool. You sure? I'm like, yeah, just bad ankle. I don't want to be a liability. I don't want some charity. I don't want to be replaced. I'm like, yeah, I'll push it through. Give me the Tylenol. I'll make it happen. Don't worry. And at the end, though, after we wrap and we have a big round of applause and here and there, he makes a nice little speech because he's just a true gentleman, great, humble, hard worker. That's why who he is. I was like, this is my chance. I got to tell him, I have to do this. Normally, it's not frowned upon to like approach and tell someone something intimate. You have to keep it professional. I get that all the time. So I was like, Mr. Calvo, I gotta tell you something real quick. How crazy it is to be with you and work with you right now, and how much of an honor it is. I was like, oh, it's a pleasure. It's always thank you so much for all your hard work. Well, I really got to tell you something a little more. And he was like, okay. And after I say that, I remember clearly after I say that, we're all wearing masks. His PR agent, manager, all get closer as in like after I say, but I really have to tell you something little. They go like, here comes security. What are you about to tell them? Hold on, who are you? And I was like, and I showed him my article on the news, and I was like, I my neck down 9 months ago compared to Christopher Reeves, and now I'm working with the current Superman with you, and my birthday is this Saturday.
How wild was that?
Insane.
Wow.
I think I have goosebumps.
It was insane. He started getting teary eyed, and then he gives me the biggest bear hug, and I almost started crying. And then he puts his hands on my shoulders, and he was like, this is ridiculous. This is amazing to meet you. What you've gone through and what you're doing, and you're here on set. This is why we do what we do. This is why who I am. This is why, whatever Superman is a role, but it's preparing yourself, and you get those rewards and benefits after you've done the work. You're the Superman. And I was like, no, I was like, I'm just Coach Andres. I'm just trying to help out, man. And he was like, no, this is surreal. And I was like, do you mind if I grab a picture? Because this has been a very uplifting, symbolic moment to keep my fire, keep my gratitude, reminder of where I've come from. And he was like, sure, of course. And there's, he looks at his PR and the PR gives a thumbs up and they set it all up and we do our picture. And I still have that. I actually, I enlarged it to a poster size and it's in my office right behind me. So and him giving each other fist daps because obviously COVID, so no handshakes. And during this whole time, I've increased my focus on coaching and testing myself with the mental health and appreciation and gratitude of where I am and what I've gone through because there's going to be a test. There's going to be another test. And I'm going to tell you, actually, I was tested again. I was tested again. I don't know why and I don't know how. But that July, it fueled me to get to the holidays again. And then around September, my left hip starts pinching me. And I was like, what's going on my left hip? I don't know what's going on. It must be part of my spinal recovery. I don't know if I'm just going to keep on pushing through. Give me a cortisone shot. So I take a cortisone shot and it gets me through 2.5 months of rehab, which I still continued. My exercises at the house, stretching, pool, everything, stationary bike. And it's just almost deteriorating my whole left side of my body. And eventually I asked for another cortisone shot after 3 months. And it lasts like 4 days, this cortisone shot. And I'm like, this nerve pain is disturbing. I don't know what it is. Eventually I go get an x-ray and an MRI, osteoarthritis, and I was bone to bone on my left hip. And I was like, I'm 38. How is this possible? In a month, I had to because it just wasn't, it was stopping my recovery from paralyzation. So I had to take 4 steps back and get a total hip replacement at 38 and get back to the walker, and do it all over again. And that was a point where I was like, this is not fair. This is not fair. But then I kept reminding myself, I've already gone through the hardest part. Maybe I won't be as enthusiastic or as high spirit as I was getting to what I'd gone through, but I'm not stopping. Like, you're not going to stop me. It's just get out of my way. I'm going to get the job done. I'm not going to be as joyful, I'd say, but I'm getting it done because I tapped into what I've gone through, what I've experienced, moments like Jose, moments like Superman, moments like my father, the resources and support, family and close friends. And I look back of gratitude saying, I have enough to get through this again. And so I got and learned how to walk again. Last December, I had a hip replacement. So now I have a full titanium hip in my left hip, which is crazy. But again, I'm back on the bike, I'm back in the pool, I'm back in the gym, and I'm coaching anyone I can.
I will say your story is definitely one of complete, I guess the definition of resiliency. And off, also like I had shared, I'm sure that people on here, they may not have a spinal cord injury and they may not be somebody that is paralyzed. However, mentally, we can also get paralyzed. So I think your message of, in correlation is, one thing that I will tell you that has helped in my healing journey is gratitude. Gratitude. And so one thing I celebrate all the time, Steph and I were just talking about this morning, is go me's every day. I celebrate myself. And so, I want to thank you for your vulnerability and your willingness to share this story. And I will look forward to that book. And I can't wait. And, it would be awesome if you could have them do, a real life story. And yeah, you could be the main actor on it because nobody else would would be able to play that person better than yourself. And, your message, I don't care if it's death, I don't care if it's, an illness, cancer, um, it doesn't matter. Your message hits every group of people because your message is about overcoming obstacles and struggles. So I want to thank you, man. I have the biggest smile on my face, guys. I have goosebumps from my toes to my head, and so I guess I shouldn't have shaved my legs today because now they're going to be prickly again. But that's okay. It was definitely worth. God, I'm yeah. You. I've been having a couple of struggles, been on the struggle bus a little bit. Then in this last week, and I will tell you, I needed this message today. So I'm grateful for this time with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It means a lot for everything you just said.
And I want to add too, we just did a podcast recording before we were on with you, and we were talking about, we all have that past, and you said it, we all have our challenges, and it's more at looking at the lessons of our life. What is, obviously God's preparing you for something with all these challenges, and I feel it's to help others, because I feel like that's your passion and purpose, and you just continue to fuel that passion and purpose with your lessons. And we have a library of lessons that we've learned over our lives, and I think people get stuck at the emotions that come with those libraries of lessons, and then we get stuck on those emotions rather than really looking at the learning and what are we learning about ourselves through the hardest points, because I really think that the hardest points of our lives are where we learn our biggest lessons. And I know there's many people that believe that. And somewhere along the line, you had people that were in your corner that made such an impression. And I think tapping into those people that were those cornerstone lessons for you, or those modeled behaviors, I think has really helped you overcome this journey. And for our audience, I think that's so important, is what can you tap into to fuel that resiliency that Stacy's talking about, because you are resilient. I mean, you have been faced with unbelievable challenges that most people will never encounter in their lives, and you can sit there. You could have chose the attitude to sit there and say, it's always me, it's always me, it's always me, everything always happens to me, the shoe drops with me, it always drops. But you didn't, and you chose a different way to look at the challenges in your life, which helped you overcome them. And now you're using that to fuel the passion in others to take control of your life, no matter what's thrown at you. So I think it's a remarkable story. And I really thank you for sharing it with us and sharing it with our audience. And I hope you continue to share it, because it is such an empowering story that just, we all have crosses to bear. You've had quite a few, and it helps other people put their crosses in perspective, what I think.
May I
Thank
ask
you.
one question? May I
Yeah.
ask one question?
Yeah.
I guess my question, our behaviors are all learned. Okay. Who do you think, I know you had said about your dad being, your closest, your best friend, your confidant, maybe. Who do you know around you that had this type of resiliency? This type of, we don't just come out with gratitude out of the womb. We're taught gratitude. So I just wanted to know what the role model, whether it was a parent, grandparent, friend's parent, teacher, where did you gain that?
I guess it's not about more or less of resiliency in someone, but when you see that in someone, regardless how much they do, you stick with those kind of people. So there's been a variety of people, like my mom and her attitude of help and provide and support. My brother, he's had, a tough life as well, maybe not as much physically. Um, someone like Alex, whose attitude to help a full-time coach and help everyone and what he's gone through. Um, my brother-in-law, who's very religious, very religious. I remember when I first had my first meal with the family after the hospital, he was like, so great to see you. I knew he came to see me at the hospital towards the end. He was like, you're going to have to carry the cross. Life sucks, but you're going to carry the cross. And I was like, how heavy is it? How heavy is it? He's like, you're going to have to. And kept on preaching, like, his Christianity on it. And I was like, I love it. I'm not like obsessed with it, but I love it. And I remember clearly at our very first dinner at home, he was like, the guy's been praying for you. And the guys would love to hear from you. And I was like, guys? What guys? He was like, well, during COVID, I started a Zoom Bible group for men, and we do it every Thursday at 9. And they all know about you and your story, and they've been praying for you this whole time while you've been in the hospital. They would love to see you. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I would love that. Because again, I'm religious, but I was never fully committed. I was baptized, first communion, all that, but I never went all in like he has. And he's a great role model in that way. And I remember clearly at the dinner table, do you have a Bible? And I was like, embarrassingly, no, not to my name. Pulls out his phone, Amazon Prime, will be there tomorrow. And I was like, okay. So I joined that group, and now I talk to around like maybe 20, 30 grown men, a variety of professions, fathers, widowers, divorcees. And it's a very inspiring group where I just listen. I just listen because I hear what they've gone through and struggle, family loss, sicknesses, health, all those concerns. Maybe no one's been paralyzed, but I see the resilience of, again, it's not one specific person, but when you see someone, and I think the main thing of believing, health, and spirituality and religion is being a believer, and understanding, like my father's favorite quote, which stuck to me, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So when you are anyone who focuses on the solution, that's resilience. I don't care if it's about picking the right cup of coffee, or I don't care about choosing the right profession. I want to be around those people. So the scale of how strong that resilience is doesn't really matter. But the attitude and outlook you have in life of your focusing on the solution, I want to be around more of those people. And the more and sooner you could surround your world with those kind of attitudes of those kind of people, that mindset, you are who you hang out with, and it fuels you, because resiliency is a muscle. It's a skill. It's not something you're just, you could be born with certain things, but you have to work it out. And a lot of things I always tell my clients, I was like, we want to invest education, which I think is great. We want to invest in our professional jobs and our careers, which is great. We want to commit to physical fitness and nutrition because we want to be healthy. But when it comes to health and emotional, that's a little uncomfortable. That's a little vulnerable. That's a little, I don't know. And I was like, oh, I want to have all the outside things checked off, but you don't really want to tap into the repetitions, the sets, the discipline, the muscle fatigue, the main mind fatigue, or the emotional fatigue that it requires to strengthen that muscle. You don't want to strengthen your spirit. You don't want to strengthen your soul, your mind. Wow. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, as a coach and as a friend, nobody wants to do it for you, and no one's going to do it for you. So you might have everything else out there checked off, but when the inside counts, that could be a very fragile foundation of who you are. So the idea is mental health, emotional health, resiliency is something only for you. And it reflects on who you are every day, how you work, who you date, how you appreciate every little small thing. And it's all about just having an attitude. I'm a believer. I'm not compared to, I have to do this. No, you get to do that. And I think it just, until it hits you hard when you're paralyzed and you're like, I get to walk today. Oh my God. And you go back to the simple basics of life. That's the essence I try to always tap into, saying, I actually get to get today. I get to get myself dressed today. I get to feed myself. And when you can kind of keep, like Stephanie was saying, not just the experience, but the lessons, and you keep that reminded in yourself, you'll get through anything. Because we're all resilient. We just don't pay enough attention to it because it is tough. It is scary.
I call it improving your bandwidth.
Exactly.
When I was leading teams at FedEx, that's what I would work with my managers. They'd be like, I can't absorb all that. Yes, you can. You just have to grow your bandwidth, and growing
Yes.
your bandwidth helps you grow your resilience. So
Yeah.
that's what I think.
I love the metaphor, not only bandwidth, but to go, like I always say, the more you sacrifice, surrender, or struggle in those tough times, the higher the ceiling, potential rise of success is up there. That bandwidth, that range extends. So it's not always, oh, I'm always down in the dumps. I'm only going to go so far. No, your range, your bandwidth now is longer and higher than most. So until you realize that, you don't realize how high you can go by being so low at certain times. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but again, part of the solution.
Yeah, I like what Mel Robbins said the other day. She was talking about kind of the bandwidth thing. It's like when you
Yeah.
reach the summit,
Yeah,
now you're at the bottom of your next mountain to climb.
exactly.
So it's just improving. It's raising that ceiling, raising
Yep,
the mountain that you're climbing. So yeah, I love
exactly.
that.
All the
Would
way.
you say, I often say that my biggest blessings have come out of the biggest struggles. And would you say, can you just share a few blessings that you feel that maybe you didn't even know that you had? I mean, I know that you shared a few, like I get to,
Yeah.
where we take for granted. I get to feed myself. I get to this. However, what would you say your biggest takeaway or blessing from becoming paralyzed you feel today?
Good question.
Great. Wow. I guess I would say that the experience and the reminder of when everything is stopped and slowed down physically, those moments of what you're thinking or what you're feeling is everything. And I can go back in those wheelchair moments in a second. And that blessing to know where I'm at now, that's the most valuable thing I take as a coach, where it's like when everything just freezes and you are literally paralyzed, how do you have an outlook of something possible, positive, joyful, anything? And that it was a very like that was like my epiphany of saying, if I when I get out of this damn chair, I am going to watch and show it. And it's because I was forced to not move. I was forced to be helpless. And I hate asking for help, or I did. I hated that. I hated being vulnerable. And now I was the most vulnerable and helpless as you can get. And so the blessing to be in those moments when everything's frozen and stopped, where does your mind go? Because we're always so distracted with social media or technology, ADD thoughts, and so many, oh, me multitasking. I get it and I respect it, but where are you now? You know? And then again, I think it's just having that blessing to have that experience, even though it was the darkest moment of my life, reminded me the most important things is how you think, how you feel, and how you look at life. Because then you really see who's around you to help you out through that. And that's another blessing, that who really helped me out, who went and get out of their way to contact me, who, messaged me, what other outside the nurses and doctors, of course, who was there through this whole time. Um, and I have a great circle around that, those people. So it's just like, you know, you don't know who your friend is until something goes wrong. No way.
It's so true. So
Yeah.
true.
I guess I would put the definition from my perspective of what you shared is your biggest blessing was emotional freedom.
Mm,
Mm.
wow.
I'm a deep thinker, buddy.
No, I no, I'm not gonna lie. Like I was always fighting to prove myself in LA, and then I was always fighting and proving myself to get out of the chair. And then now with like coaching and talking to other people and sharing their stories and trying to help out, it is very free um, in myself. And just like I'm not thinking, I don't have a script. It's just go, and I'm not trying to prove
Sense of
anything.
peace.
I'm not proving anything to anyone. I don't care what if you think this is crazy. I don't care if you take this to the heart. I don't care if you learn anything from this, but you're going to hear it. And I hope you do, but it doesn't affect me. Trust me, I got plenty of problems in front of me. So it's more like, again, sharing that message, pushing it out there, sharing it, and hopefully it gets to someone to wake up on certain things.
I think as coaches, I think our journey is about getting them to see what they don't see.
Yep.
And the hardest lessons we learn, although they're the most uncomfortable, I think if you're able to open your eyes through those hardest times, that's when you learn the most about yourself, if you allow it.
Exactly. Surrender.
Yeah, surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've learned from the Bible group. Again, I've never read the full Bible, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, but we've been going through chapter by chapter since the 2020 of October, since I joined. We just finished Roman. And the most common message you see in the Bible, it's not about religion, anything you want to have a belief in is fine. But the most common thing you see is surrender and believing. It's the most common thing. And that could be in any religion, any, spirituality, any faith, surrendering, believing. That's it.
Giving it to
Whatever you
God.
want to call it, call it. Yeah.
It's like in any recovery, what did they start with? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that cannot change, the courage to change the things that can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
And that's what everything is.
Yeah.
Can I?
Starting with that.
It is. It is. You're so right. And I want to add, y'all were talking about skills that you learn. And I think there's two skills that we're talking about today that we really haven't highlighted on, but those two skills are hope and faith. So many people around the world don't have the opportunity to learn hope and faith as a skill, because I think it is a skill, because you learn to surrender yourself, like you all are saying, and give it to the higher power that, you know what, life's going to be okay. You got to have faith that it will be okay. And you got to have that hope and find that hope in every moment of every day and every person. I had a kid one time. I said hi to him. That's all I did in the workplace. I said hi, and he came to me the next day. I was nice to him, right? And he came to me the next day and he said, "Do you know I was about to commit suicide after work that day?" And he goes, "The only reason I didn't was because you were nice to me." And that gave him just that little bit of hope that he needed to see to keep his life moving. And sometimes we don't, I think those of us that have hope and faith, we take it for granted. And maybe that builds our resiliency. So maybe that's the thing. Maybe there's people out there without that hope and faith that doesn't give them that resilience, because they don't see and they're not looking for those brighter moments, those brighter times, and that little glimmer that can keep you going. And I think, for you, you could have easily, Andres, turned the other direction, but somewhere along the line, that hope and faith kept you going and build that resilience. So that's just what I think.
No, I love that. I love that. It makes me think about how it's hard to have hope and faith because we usually get reminded of bad luck or unfortunate situations so often that keeps us down. But when you have that hope and faith and look in the big run, the big picture of things, that reward or that enlightenment, that epiphany, that success, we'll call it, is so much more impactful than all those everyday little frustrations. So it's like one big win, one big surprise, one big success, one big awakening will overshadow, over destroy all those everyday, every week disturbances or frustrations or doubts because, oh, but it's always me, bad luck. Oh, it's always me. Okay, that's gonna happen. But when you keep your hope and faith, eventually that time when the door does open or that opportunity does rise, it just washes all those thoughts away, all those doubts away. And you're like, oh, that's why I went through what I went through for that. And you're like, okay, and I see it. Because you don't get good luck all the time. You don't get good things like, compliments or reward, no, or raises or promotions or, hey, here's $1,000. No, you don't get that kind of stuff.
We're not guaranteed that.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So like the hope and faith are things that you're going to get tested throughout the day. But when you continue staying on that path, guess what? That reward will just outnumber any of those things you were feeling before. easily, easily.
Well, thank you so much, Andres. What a great conversation as well. I've thoroughly enjoyed having this conversation and listening to your story. And I really hope, it helps people along the way because again, we all have our crosses to bear. And you have hoisted yours up over your shoulder and tossed it to the curb because you overcame so far in your life the challenges that have been thrown at you. And you've done it with resilience and grace and learning. So I hope this inspires other people to put life a little bit in perspective that, we all do have our crosses. And some of us look like we've never had a cross to bear ever in our life. But it's really the attitude in which we chose to carry that cross that has
Mm.
really made us stronger.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure meeting
And
both of you. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
and likewise, I wanna say thank you so much. I guess one of the encouragements and takeaways that I took is that when we choose to drop the rock and get out of our own way
Oh yeah.
is where that blessing of the emotional freedom comes from.
Yeah.
Amen.
So
That, that,
thank you for
that was,
that. Thank you for that message.
it's been a pleasure, honestly. This has been so surreal. And again, you just said it right there. A lot of things that my therapists or my doctors and everyone said, get out of your own way. Because you're doing more things that most people never have, and watch how much further you can go. But just get out of your own way. Watch. Just keep on watching. And I'm more of like, I do get in my own way sometimes mentally. And I was like, that's a big thing I get reminded to a lot.
Don't
Love
we
that.
all?
Yeah. So again, thank you so much. So this has been an awesome. I can't wait to do it again. You guys have been great. What a great way to start the weekend. Um, again, so if anyone ever needs anything, you let me know. My website's coachingwithundress.com. Love to help and hear from everyone in those scenarios because we've all gone through it, and it's always a blessing to be a part of this. And thank you for the course, Stephanie. I love the course. I will be continuing more and more with that.
I'm glad you like it. And we will share your information on our podcast. That way, people, if they want to reach out, they can reach out to you. So we'll be able to share that. So, and Stacy, you want to wrap us up?
Well, first I'll say many peace and blessings to you, and as you go into the week and the following year. And as always, friends, smile and be kind and do something serving for others.
Absolutely. And again, thank you, Stacy, for being such a great co-host, and Andres, such a pleasure today. And I look forward to many more conversations down the stretch. So, and remember, do better, be better, and treat people better.
See you next time.
Bye.